Hey, welcome back into the Chiro Money Show, where we're helping chiropractors make better financial decisions so they can build stability in their finances and a lifestyle that they love. I'm Scott with Aligned Wealth. Thanks for tuning in today's episode. Today, we're going to be diving into the topic of marketing, specifically around paid ads and SEO. So Chris and I felt there was no better guest to bring onto the show today than Dylan Marchese and Trevor Johnson with the chiroconsultants. These two brought a ton of value to the conversation and just bring a ton of wealth and experience and knowledge in areas of paid ads, web, and SEO. And that's what's so great about these guys is that they know chiropractors. They built their entire agency to exclusively support chiropractors across Canada and the US. If you are a member of CNAC or AFC out in Ontario, or maybe you've been to the Lux Talks conference out in BC, Vancouver area, then you may know or have heard of the chiroconsultants. We had the pleasure of getting to know them over the last year or so. And yeah, these guys know their stuff. And beyond that, we've seen firsthand that what they're doing and how they're helping us support chiropractors is delivering tremendous results. So hopefully you can get some great takeaways from today's conversation. We probably have listeners in different camps when it comes to their experience with marketing. I know from our experience, we've seen docs that have put very little towards their marketing budget in terms of running paid ads or optimizing their SEO. And we've also seen docs who have spent a lot of money with varying degrees of success when it comes to some short-term success or positive results, but then frustrating when things aren't as consistent month to month in terms of what they're spending on paid advertisements versus the results. So we're going to dive into the conversation today and touch on a few things. Some of the things that you're going to learn today, we're talking about their 4-step process that leads to a great ROI or return on investment and consistent results from your marketing efforts. We're going to talk about what you should be considering in terms of a budget and kind of thinking about in terms of how much you should be spending month to month on marketing. And definitely be sure to stay to the end of the conversation. Trevor and Dylan and I and Chris, we get into kind of talking about what the clinics are who are absolutely crushing it with their marketing, what they all have in common. So it's going to be a great conversation today. Hope you enjoy it. We'll dive in now to our conversation with Dylan and Trevor with the chiroconsultants.
All right, Trevor and Dylan, welcome to the Chiro Money Show. We're excited to have you guys here today, and let's just dive right in. So wanted to ask you straight off the bat here, what's the biggest reason that most chiropractors are scared to spend money on marketing?
For me, what I see, one thing would be getting burned in the past by other agencies. I mean, the digital landscape as a whole, you can still call it new, it maybe in our lifetimes or our professional careers, it might start to feel a bit old, but in the grand scheme of things, it's new, right? As far as technology goes and so on and so forth. So when the agency world, for lack of a better term, started, it was Wild West, just like the internet was Wild West when things started. People are seeing new opportunities, ways to start businesses, make money, whatever it may be. That was and is very lucrative. Especially back then, things were like super cheap, pennies on the dollar, you were getting freaking leads. So a lot of people just jumping in and learning. So a lot of people along the way got burned by everyone trying to figure this thing out. And then even beyond that, that still happens to some degree or another, where sometimes there's a lot of good agencies out there, but just like in any industry, there's a lot of bad ones in the sense that because of how lucrative the industry is, you end up getting quite a bit of people in it just for the money. So their focus is mainly on the sales and the growth of their business as opposed to the sales and growth of their client's business. And then they end up in this big churn and burn ad cycle, so to speak, right? So they're running their own ads, closing people, and then not putting enough attention to the product side of things. So the stat for our industry, unfortunately, is give or take, I hope it's larger now. I don't actually know, but it was always said to be about a 3-month lifetime value. So for us, for example, working with chiropractors, the average assumption would be that every chiro we work with, we are only with them for 3 months, maybe on the good side, 6 months, which is very short, especially if that's the average, right? We've thankfully been able to push ours much beyond that. We're above 12 months. We have some people at 6 years. Our average is probably pushing 2 years now.
It's 2.5 years now, Dill.
2.5 years. So there you go. So that's obviously far exceeds the average. But we put a ton of intentionality behind that. So I think as a whole, to circle back to the question, I think that's one major reason when it comes to ads, why a lot of doctors might be hesitant to invest money is A, they've been burned, or the other side of that would be just not fully understanding how lucrative it can be when done well. Just sometimes, the ROI side of things, they went to school to be doctors. They didn't go to school to necessarily be business owners. So it's just a new world. When you get into that whole talk of money in, money out, it's just a new venture, and it can be scary when you get faced with both management fees and ad spend. You got to really put a lot of faith into the agency, knowing that, hey, you're going to at least get 2 to 3x ROI, ideally more.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, like Dill said, trust's been broken, right? Chiropractors were unfortunately victim to a lot of people who got in the digital marketing space who didn't really know what they were doing. And I mean, the average chiropractor who comes to us has worked with, like, let's call it like 5 to 7 different agencies who had a life cycle of, let's call it 3 to 4 months. And off they are to a new one. And ads only work for 2-3 months, then I need to swap the company. So that's the norm that we always see, and we've really broken that mold. And ultimately, the trust is really broken because, like, there's no one who's actually partnering up with them to make sure that we're not just focusing on vanity metrics and, hey, Dr. So-and-so, I generated you 50 leads. Why didn't you make money? Like, that's useless, right? That's vanity. What we want to really focus on is we're doing these digital assets or these ads or this website, and you spent X and you made Y. So even on your end, any of our mutual clients, you can look at them and say, look, guys, like, you're spending this, here's your marketing budget, that's great, but look at the growth that you're seeing on a month-to-month basis. And actually, I'm really excited for you to hop on a call like Scott, we were chatting about this past weekend with one of our mutual clients. They just reported some crazy numbers to us for a record month that they had in May. So I'm excited for you to see that. But really, they need the confidence to see I'm spending this and I'm making this, and it's a scalable endeavor to put more money in and get more money out once the system is there. But yeah, trust has been broken, and they need someone to actually partner with them rather than just, run some ads or something like that and never speak to them again.
So interesting. I had no idea that the typical, life cycle or lifespan was at 3 months. And even that other point you had of, like, the average chiropractors coming to you guys having already worked with about 5 or so different digital agency or media people in the past. That's wild.
Yeah, it is a crazy stat.
My next question leads from this first question on what chiropractors are scared to spend money on their marketing. Dylan, when we chatted, like, on our prep call a little while back ahead of this conversation today, you said something that kind of stuck out with me, is that's kind of the sense of chiropractors hesitant to spend money on marketing. And usually the phrase that comes out of their mouth when they're thinking about making an adjustment to their marketing is, I feel like I should do this, or it seems like I should do that. I should do ad spends because XYZ does this, or I've heard I should do this. But like you said, it's never, like, backed by data. And to your point, Trevor, it's like, once they understand the numbers and the data that supports the ad spend, like, they're flipping the script of, like, understanding that there is going to be an ROI. Can you maybe touch on that a little bit further in terms of that flip of the script of that, the feel of marketing versus actually using the data and making decisions based on that?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, we're a heavily data-driven company, as I think all companies should be, right? I think that's another one of those bridges that every entrepreneur needs to cross. And we're obviously going to put the doctors in that same category. It's like, yes, you are a doctor of chiropractic, but you started a clinic, so you're also an entrepreneur. You're wearing 2 hats. So you do have to transition to that. You got to put your data hat on. And that's not easy for everyone. And if you've ever done a personality test in the past, you'll know that not everyone is a data person, which is fine. Then you just got to find someone who is, and then you got to some degree, trust that person too. So it's like, yeah, when you start to hear words like feel and think, someone's operating from a place of, just emotion. And emotion is never a good place to operate for really anything in life, especially business. When it comes to business, you got to learn to, and you guys would know, you guys are in the markets, right? And emotion is the biggest topic in the markets. And that's exactly what you guys can help people do, is get rid of that emotion side of things. So it's like, okay, we got to look at the data. The data shows proof of the past and predictability for the future. And once you have that data, it's a beautiful thing, because then you can confidently scale accordingly. So yeah, that's the big thing that we try to, quote unquote, hammer into our clients as soon as we can and as much as we can. When we see those things, it's like, let's just look at the data. Sometimes we'll get a client coming back and like, oh, it just seems like, even if lead quality is a big thing. So sometimes we're like, oh, Just feels like a lot of the leads coming in aren't very quality. Okay, cool. Our response isn't just, okay, we hear you, we'll try to improve that. We say, okay, good to know. What exactly are you seeing? What are the names of these people? How many? What platforms did they come from? Oh, well, I don't know. Okay, cool. Well, how about you get us those names and we'll cross-reference? Sometimes it turns out none of those leads or a portion of those leads didn't even come from us. So it's like, okay, if we didn't find that piece of data, that's not us trying to necessarily cover our tracks, but as much as it is like, if we just went by your feeling and then we tweaked the ads, we could have tweaked something that was clearly making money and doing really well. Why would you want to do that? You wouldn't. So it's nothing to do with ego. It's nothing to do with who's right, who's wrong. It's everything to do with what's the real data and making sure we make decisions accordingly, because you can make big mistakes if you don't do that.
Can you share some of the key metrics that you guys are often referencing or most frequently referencing on your end?
Yeah, we follow a 4-step process in terms of getting people results: lead volume, booking percentage, show percentage, and conversion percentage. Those are the 4 key areas. So in a general nutshell, we want to generate leads who book, show up, and convert. And we have key metrics that we'll look for in each of those areas. There is nuance with that depending on the province that the person might be in, depending if they're like a little rural city versus like downtown Toronto, stuff like that. But those are the 4 key areas that we really focus on to drive revenue into a clinic. Now, ultimately, there's dozens of other numbers that we look at personally in terms of what are good indicators for leading indicators and lagging indicators that is going to attribute to a good month or a poor month. But in terms of what we deal with our clinics, those are the 4 key areas that are going to be the highest leverage that they'll want to work on to get a good return.
Yeah, we tell everyone is the main thing we always hinge on is ROI. Like Fred was saying, it's just ROI, ROI, ROI. Everything else is an indicator to optimize if and when the ROI is suggesting optimizing needs to be happen. It would be no different than you guys with portfolios, right? If your portfolio, whether it's up or down, you're following data and you're just trusting that data and that process, all based on end goals. The second you start getting caught on things like what Trevor mentioned earlier, vanity metrics, a vanity metric in our space would be like CPL. So when that's
Explain what that is, Dylan. What's
yeah, so that stands for cost per lead. So sometimes we'll get clients come in and be like, oh, well, just randomly like, hey, I'm just curious what my CPL is right now. And the reason why they'll ask that is because that's one of the first terms you learn when it comes to marketing or, growing your business. What's your cost per lead? Which is a fair and great question, but in what context? CPL is irrelevant if you don't attribute it to the world that it's living in. And on one hand, it's like, okay, well, if you're sitting there with a 4 or 5x ROI, which is great, like, again, for you guys being in the markets, how often do you see this is month on month cash return a lot of the times? Even if we're looking at 12 months, right? Everything averages out at the end of the day. So if you're looking at 4x ROI on the year, how many investments do you see those type of returns in? Not very many. Obviously, this is business, and those are the type of returns you want to be seeing. But at any rate, if we're hitting that, we're chilling. Maybe we can squeeze the juice a little more. But if you come to me and say, oh, what's our CPL? Because you heard someone else is maybe getting a $20 CPL, maybe you're at 60 CPL. Maybe you're at an 80 CPL, but you're getting a 5x return on investment. That CPL is representing you're getting a qualified lead. The price of them doesn't matter because it's producing 5x return. Now, you could then say, oh, but now wouldn't it be 10x if I brought it down to 20? No, maybe. But I doubt it. You know what, 20 CPL, if your average based on a 5x ROI is 60, you know what 20 probably means? A poor quality lead. And then guess what? Now you're coming back to me asking, hey, I think these leads are poor quality again. And now your 5x just dropped down to a 2x or less. So that's, again, falls in that vanity metric place where it's like those type of things we honestly try to avoid talking about with our clients as much as possible because it's so easy to get caught in the weeds there. It's like we look at these things daily and we optimize accordingly. But it's all reverse engineered based off ROI. If you're hitting your ROI goals, especially anything above 3x, for the most part, we're letting it ride, baby. Keep the party going. So that's kind of what we differentiate between metrics that we look at. But to Trevor's point, it's like just look at those front end ones, the four main pillars that we look at, all reverse engineered from ROI.
Yeah. So yeah, obviously ROI, return on investment is
Yes.
It's kind of like the bottom line, right? Like
That's it.
That's what really matters.
That's why you're here.
So if there's a chiropractor listening that's like, maybe not investing so much in their advertising and marketing budget right now, like, can you give us some ideas of like, what an average clinic should be spending on on this as like a percentage of their revenue or however you guys want to communicate that?
Yeah.
What should we be spending? Because obviously if you can get us 3x ROI, like that's great. How much do I spend?
Yeah, there's a lot of different numbers that get thrown around out there. I think that it really just depends at the stage of your clinic. For larger clinics out there who are doing more revenue, more patient visits per week, you take a larger marketing budget to sustain
Mhm.
that new patient volume, whereas smaller clinics out there will take a smaller new patient or marketing budget to sustain their clinic volume. And I would say the percentage that you're spending on marketing scales up in percentage based off what you're actually doing in gross revenue. So not only is, the total dollar value that you're going to spend increase just because you're making more money, but you should also bump up the percentage as well. I think a good starting place to look at your overall marketing budget in your clinic is 8%, but we know clinics who spend up to 15% of their gross margin on marketing budget, sorry, their gross
Right.
revenue on marketing budget. Because again, if it returns, it returns. We have clinics who spend like 20, 25% on marketing budget. But keeping in mind, as you both know, if you're spending 25% now, if that marketing budget is doing a good job, eventually that, if you don't change that actual dollar figure, it's really should be going down a percentage over time as your clinic grows, obviously, right? Yeah. But from a general dollar value point, most clinics from a digital standpoint, again, like all in, like agency fee, ad spend, most people like bare minimum, you're going to be spending about $3,000 a month. We have clinics who spend upwards of $10,000 a month on their marketing when you really look at the bigger picture of everything involved with websites, search engine optimization, AI optimization.
I appreciate you putting some actual numbers to that, Trevor, like a $3,000 starting point. Like, for some docs, that's going to feel like a big number, like, especially if maybe the volume isn't as high as they want to, or they're still growing. Like, what is the communication like when you guys bring on someone? Is there a minimum period of time we need to wait before we typically see results? Or like, because that's going to be the biggest question,
Yeah.
right? Like if a doc's having a hard time coming up with $5,000 to start this endeavor, you know,
Yeah, great question. I mean, ultimately, I get a really good gauge from clinics that we work with. We've been doing this a very long time. I've been under chiropractic care myself for over a decade. So we get a really good gauge on the actual skill set of the chiropractor. Sometimes it's just you have like this sweeper who's just like, he just has the systems dialed in. And it's like, you just need to like get more new patients at all costs. Like you don't you don't need to change anything you're doing in house. You just need more volume. Or you also have clinics who need a bit of both. You know what I mean? They need more new patients, but their internal processes aren't up to par. And the reason I share that is because we're one piece of the puzzle ultimately, right? Like I can send hundreds of new patients into a practice, but if they're not getting a quality care when they're getting into that practice, it doesn't matter. You're not going to make a return on investment. So for a very skilled clinic who just needs more new patient volume, they have a good intake process for their exams and their reported findings and everything. Most of these clinics are seeing results within the first month, especially in Canada. Um, in areas like BC, as you know, return on investment comes over time because they're not selling care plans where they're collecting upfront payments. So they're just, collecting per visit. So return on investment there is expected over a number of months. Whereas in a place like Ontario and Alberta, where you can actually sell care plans, most of these clinics are seeing return on investment for the dollars that they spend pretty immediately in that month. If you're selling, $2,000-$3,000 care plans, then you're going to see the return on investment right in that month. And a $2,000-$3,000 care plan isn't anything crazy. Like that's like pretty normal in the chiropractic world nowadays. And again,
Mhm.
if we're talking even pay per visit like BC, over time, patients who are sticking on care are going to be easily spending that as they get through their corrective phase into wellness phase, etc. So that right there, like one patient can make you at least break even on that $3,000 if someone's hesitant about that. Which
Yeah.
again, when we're talking about very successful clinics like you and I both work with, like 3 to 5x is like the starting point, realistically speaking, because these patients sticking on for years and they bring their family in and they're bringing their friends and like this is all attributed to return on investment. So we have clinics who make a 10x return on investment and have been with us over 8 years, like millions of dollars generated from just ads, right? So
Yeah. The two of you meet with a lot of chiropractors, and I think you've seen all the mistakes that chiropractors are currently making with the decisions that they've been making in the past with their marketing. Like things change year over year. There's different strategies, different approaches to marketing. In 2026, where we stand today, when you meet with a new chiropractor, what's the most common mistake that you're seeing right now that chiropractors are making with their marketing decisions?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's definitely varied, obviously. But if I was to kind of cherry pick a few, one thing we see a lot of is, again, lack of data. So we're honestly often shocked at how many other companies can get away with retaining some clinics for so long with such a low amount of visibility, especially when it comes to like the web and SEO space, which is a reason why we decided to get into it a few years back. We originally started just ads, but we saw this huge hole in the market where doctors just weren't getting a good service. At the time, we obviously weren't experts in it, but we could just tell because we know what a good service looks like. And that means clarity, visibility, trackable data, ROI. And anytime we would ask about it, they would literally just say, I don't know. We would literally just ask a simple question, like, how many patients did you get from your website this past month? It shouldn't be that. And we'd even ask, have you ever gotten like updates or reports or tracking? No. Okay. And then we would look at their website, and then we started researching web and SEO and how it all works. And we very, very quickly could see things that just weren't done proper. And they were just sold into it. And especially something like web and SEO that's something that feels more like a need. Whereas digital marketing feels more like a potential desire, but it's at least from an optics standpoint, pretty much everyone could say, oh, I need a website and ranking makes sense and I need my website to be good, right? No one really argued that. So that's a pretty easy sale. But then because of that, people just end up, they feel good subconsciously getting the check mark, paying that bill every month, even though they're not knowing what's happening because they're like, oh, it's just something I got to pay. It's like paying the electric bill, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think a lack of data is, again, a big mistake. I think for people who have clinics that have been trying marketing over the years, like the people who've been burned multiple times, or even sometimes people end up with an agency for a long period of time and maybe it's working out well, but expecting that the numbers are the same as they were back in like 2016, 2017, even just anything post 2020, right? 2021, even after 2021, after the lockdowns and everything, we actually got clinics back up really quickly and ad costs were extremely cheap again because no one was advertising. Everyone shut down. So a lot of people pulled back. So then the space was open because a lot of people don't understand it's bidding, right? Just like you have to spend a certain amount to be on a billboard to get ad placement in like on a TV or whatever on the radio, it's bidding. You're the highest bidder wins to some degree. It's mixed in with some other algorithm things as far as quality and relevancy. But long story short is they just assume, again, back to the CPL thing, oh, well, I used to get $5 leads. Cool. And milk used to only cost like $2.
Yeah.
It's like $8 now. You know what I mean? Like, who are you to think that, the digital marketplace hasn't also seen inflation? Not to mention every year that goes by, more and more people get in the game. Like people are getting sold every single day. Chiropractors are more and more getting on the train. So it's like costs are just going up. But again, then the fear comes in, oh, well, then it's too expensive. And then, well, based on what? What are you tying that expensive to, right? There's got to be a reference point. The reference point is ROI. So you can see we always get back to this ROI standpoint. So again, obviously everything's within reason, but at the end of the day, ROI is ROI. That means there is a return on that investment. So whether you're spending $1 million a month or $1,000 a month, if you're getting 3x ROI, you're getting 3x ROI. So it's just getting over that mental hurdle of costs is I think another big mistake. And related to costs is the desire to look for the cheapest option. It doesn't happen all the time, especially people who have been burned. They're looking for someone who's going to do a reliable, good job. But you still see it sometimes. It's like, oh, well, what if I can get this person to do it for that cost? Especially with web and SEO. Well, I could get this person. I could get AI to make me a website for free or for like $1,000 with this kid. Cool. Is it set up properly? Is it optimized for SEO, right? There's so many variables there. Is it actually going to convert new patients? Just because you got a website for $1,000, if you never got one single new patient from it, who cares? Versus in our circumstance, the way we build it, people are getting 5, 10, 15, sometimes 20, 30 new patients a month from a properly optimized website. That's worth infinite amount of money. The ROI on that is monstrous. So yeah, those are the three things from my perspective is lack of data, bad expectations on cost, and or look in relation to that, looking for the cheapest option.
For myself, it'd be two big things that I see. First and foremost is really bad marketing, to be completely honest, just a bad product. I've been on calls with clinics doing $2 million a year in collections, and their website was from like a decade ago with like copy on the website that like, could have been like straight out of like ChatGPT, you know what I mean? So really
Yeah.
just bad marketing, honestly, that or like the ads themselves that they're running, the creative that they're putting in, just bare minimum effort. That would be the biggest thing that I see just plagued across the industry. Like, we put a lot of effort into our product. We want to put out beautiful ads that actually convert.
Yeah.
So really just poor marketing is one thing. The second thing I would say is over-reliance on one aspect of marketing. Like I just got off a call with one of our clinics today. We helped do her grand opening. She's been live for a year and a half now, or almost 2 years actually, and she's doing phenomenal. Like really, really thriving clinic. She took us on a new tour of the new renovations she did. She's bringing on associates to continue growing, like just doing phenomenal. And I mean, that's my favorite part of our business. It's just seeing these people thrive in their clinics. But the topic came up, okay, well, so what are we going to do to continue to grow with this associate? And I was like, okay, well, out of the total sum of new patients that you're getting, like, where are they coming from? And she admitted, like, pretty much 100% of them is from the ads that we're running. And I'm like, well, that's a problem. You shouldn't be like purely relying on us. Like, that's not good, right? Obviously she's getting some referrals, and I was like, well, how many new patients are you getting from Google? Zero. I don't think I've ever had one. Right? So over reliance
Mhm.
on one marketing source. So now we're talking about expanding it. We're going to build a brand new, beautiful website and start optimizing it, get her listed on AI, Bing, Apple, all these different places. So wherever a new patient is looking for a chiropractor, she's popping up. So over reliance on one marketing source is a big issue. People just get comfortable. People get comfortable. And then on the inverse side of that, you'll have clinics who have just tons of marketing dollars going out there, and then it just gets unoptimized from the standpoint that they have so many new patients that they're getting, the level of care for each of these new patients, and it's kind of just like, we got so many new patients, like, for who cares if I don't put in 100% effort on this one, right? And then you just start to bleed new patients and bleed revenue because it's just too busy, and yeah, we're not as efficient and optimized as we should be in terms of conversion and making sure people are stuck on care, etc.
Yeah. It's one thing to get new patients in the door. Other part is just retention, like quality of
Yeah.
care, like the lifetime value of a new patient that sticks around to their care plan and brings in their family members and gets them all care. Like that's where we're really going to enhance that ROI long term on that new patient acquisition than in just getting them in for a single visit and the ball gets dropped there, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, and that's the goal
absolutely.
for chiropractic. Like it's twofold for the chiropractor. That's a great amount of revenue, which is great. You are in business at the end of the day, so you do need to focus on that. But the inverse side of that, which is the reason why they became chiropractors, that's to take care of people and to give them the gift of chiropractic and adjustments. So the longer people are on care and the more of their family they bring in, you're fulfilling the goal you set out for yourself, which is to bring chiropractic to people. So yeah, it's a double whammy, and that's where all the magic happens. Yeah.
I always say the bigger the impact, right? Like most chiropractors got into this to have an impact in their community, the people that they serve, and they're if they can increase that, why not? Like just like
Totally.
us and our businesses, we want to serve more because we love what we do, and we want to see that impact trickle down and affect more people in a
Hmm.
positive way.
Yep.
It sounds like you guys have kind of done that with adding in the SEO element to your business recently. Can you guys tell us a bit more about how that has how that's improved the overall like level of service that you are offering to your clients and what that yeah, kind of how that's changed things for you guys?
Yeah, like everything we don't do it halfway. We could have started bringing this to the masses like 3.5 years ago, really, when like that was like it was about 4 years ago when we really, really first started development and dipping our toes in it. But the first and foremost thing that we wanted to make sure we locked in was actual deliverables. Okay, we're doing web and SEO. What does that actually mean? How do we actually drive results, right? So we developed the product for a very long time, a painfully long time, to be completely honest. And we invested, us as like our business, we invested a ton of money in learning and time. And not only that, like staff, like we're not hiring a virtual assistant overseas for, $500 to do this for our clients. Like we're hiring like qualified, really solid people who can drive results and build a phenomenal product. So we really started bringing it to the masses a year and a half ago or so. And really, it's just given us a more well-rounded product offering for our clinics is really the way I describe it. And it's achieved what we would call omnipresence, because on the paid advertising side, we're focused on Meta, so Facebook, Instagram, and other affiliated Meta products. And then on Google, you of course have Google Maps, other affiliated Google products, which I mean, tons of them obviously nowadays, right? YouTube, etc. So that's a lot of coverage right there. But then when you look at the web and SEO world, you have AI, which is huge now. So ChatGPT, Grok, all these different places that people are searching now instead of Google. Like the amount of people that are actually searching on Google is going down and down every single month, and that volume is being picked up by AI and turns more of less keyword and more phrase match searching. So now you have, in the world of SEO, it's not just Google, it's Google Maps, it's Apple Maps, because Apple people are tribal. Then you have the Bing world, where it's like, who on earth uses Bing? Well, tons of people actually use Bing. They still have good market share, because you buy a PC from Best Buy, it's auto installed on there, and the demographic of 40 to 65-year-olds, they don't know what the heck Google Chrome is. They're not downloading that. They're just using Bing, right? So Bing actually has on average, a more wealthy demographic that uses it in comparison to Google and AI, et cetera. And then again, you have all these AI platforms. So like SEO is such a broad term, and it's many things nowadays. It's not one thing, it's many things. So that's why we call it omnipresence. Omnipresence is a sense of like, everywhere all the time, and that's what we want to achieve for clinics. We're on all platforms, everywhere. Anywhere that someone is searching for, how can I deal with this sciatica pain that I have, or who's the best chiropractor in Windsor that I can go see? That's where we want our clinics found. Just gives tons of stability in terms of the results that I experience on a month-to-month basis.
Yep. Yeah, we're big fans of it. It's given us another avenue to provide more for our clients at the end of the day. Just like we're talking about with doctors wanting to provide as much as possible for their patients, we want to provide as much as we can, especially if on the inadvertent side is we know to some degree we're protecting them, as weird as that might sound, from people who have lower integrity. Integrity is one of the main things we try to pride ourselves in and focus on. And I think that's represented in our reviews and testimonials on Google and on our website. It's just honesty and doing the best we can no matter what. Doesn't mean everything works out peachy keen 100% of the time, because it doesn't. This is planet Earth and nothing ever does. But you best believe that we put in the max amount of effort that we could to make sure that it would. So yeah, web and SEO is just another opportunity for us to do that. And we at least know in good conscience that we've given it our all to our clients that do sign up with us on that. And then, we get to just broaden just our product base with these clients and do more with them, and then get more new patients in the door. And yeah, it's great. It's also been a great, to throw some marketing jargon in there, it's been a great lead magnet for us too. Because again, like I was talking earlier, web and SEO is just an easier icebreaker, because people, to some degree, they don't necessarily understand it in its processes, but they know what it is and they know it's important. All right. So that's an easy, very applicable way for us to start conversations with people and give value to people. One of the main things we've been doing is just giving free web and SEO audits to new clinics that we speak with, because it's something that they value and they should value, and it gives them a lot of just information that up until now, 9 times out of 10, they just didn't have. They just didn't know, because you got to learn it to understand it. SEO is a pretty hard thing to wrap your head around without learning it. So we can go in, we look at their website, how things are set up. We give them a full hands-on audit, and then we hop on a call after with these people too, and we answer any questions they have. So it's been a great tool for us in that sense too, to just open the door to conversations with more clinics, and then show them like, hey, we're here to help, and we're gonna do the best we can to help you grow.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about mistakes that chiropractors are making it, but you touch on your reviews and testimonies that you've had, and we've seen the success that you've had with a lot of clinics, and both in US and in Canada. Again, we talked about some of the mistakes, but you guys are doing some awesome work. You're experiencing chiropractors absolutely crushing it with their marketing and seeing great results. You also mentioned that you have like a much higher retention than most of these marketing agencies. 2.5 years. 2.5 years is your average now. What I'd like to understand is like, is there a pattern that you're seeing with these practices that are absolutely crushing it and they're just keeping the foot on the gas pedal? Like, what are they doing differently that people need to know about?
Yeah, I think honestly, the main, most simple pattern would just be open-mindedness and a willingness to go all in. The amount of times we've had clinics that, could have been fine, and honestly, from a statistical standpoint, were fine, that we ended up losing just because they just weren't all in. Communications were thin. It was like pulling teeth to get on calls with them, which would sound weird. A lot of people usually say, oh, I can't get in touch with my provider, but it's the opposite. Usually you can't get rid of us. So in those cases where they're not like working with us, especially Trev kind of touched on it earlier, especially with things like creative, like just stop and think for a second. What is an ad? What is a digital ad? It's a picture. It's a video. It's something, it's content that you are creating and posting to connect with someone who knows where they are, what they're doing, to get them to stop, to pay attention to you, to decide that you're potentially a solution to their problem and something that they want to put their hard-earned money, especially in this economy, in, to then give to you, to trust you, to take care of their needs. And that has to happen in seconds. And you're telling me you can't take 30 minutes, an hour, heaven forbid 2 hours, to just shoot a bunch of quality content so that you have an opportunity to connect with these people to get them to come in your clinic? Like, does that actually make sense? Like, this is the product. That's like going to a mechanic and not bringing your car. Like, what are they supposed to work on? So, and honestly, I know it can be a bit of a pain sometimes, but we've streamlined the process as much as we could. We only ask for creative a handful of times a year, especially the more you give us in that one setting, the longer it'll last. This is, you got to have skin in the game, and it's going to be effort, but that's the point. And I think a lot of marketing too was always sold as, oh, just turn on ads, turn a blind eye and get rich. Cool, And honestly, there are some instances where that can and has happened, especially in the past. It's again getting less and less so now, but it's work at the end of the day. And why would you not want to put your best foot forward in representing yourself and trying to attract the right people? Because again, if you're not sending me content, and we see this more often than I'd like to admit, people that just don't send us content, or when they do, it's like half-assed, pardon my French, and then they come back on the flip side. Oh, hey, lead quality sucks right now. How are people supposed to connect with you? What do you want us to do? You know what I mean? If you can't even just put in the time to give us something that's going to attract what you consider the ideal patient for you, there's only so much we can do. And we do as best we can, and sometimes we get away with it. But yeah, I would say that's definitely a big thing. Is it's like, just if you're gonna do it and you want to grow, you got to go all in and just commit.
Yeah.
And honestly, once you do commit, it's like anything in life. Once you start going to the gym, the first couple months are hard, but once you get over that hump, it just becomes routine and it's easy, right? So just commit.
Yeah, I think business acumen in general is greatly needed. As you know, a lot of these chiropractors, they get out of school and they're there to heal and be a chiropractor, but ultimately this is a business and you need to have business acumen. Dylan and I had been very, very, very blessed to work with a lot of phenomenal clinics. I mean, 95% of our business is purely built based off of referral, which is weird for a marketing company, but it's because we put so much time and effort into our product. So as a result, we're a network with a ton of great doctors, as you both are. And yeah, I mean, when we work with a clinic who's already successful and then just add more fuel to the fire, it's like there's almost no way to fail. Ultimately, I mean, I shared this clinic who, after a year and a half, she fully renovated the office. Looks like she's a killer. Like, there's nothing, like, with or without us, she'd be successful. So we're just adding fuel to the fire and getting her there much, much quicker than she would have got there on her own. You know what I mean? So we're very lucky to work with some great people. Yeah, the most successful people are people who have high business acumen, and they are chiropractors in the heart. They have a genuine care for seeing people get phenomenal results in their clinic, and that's what we need. Those are the people we want to work with, because those are the people who are going to make most money they can per patient. Like, we have clinics who have like a 200 PVA. Like, that's like, some people might listen to this being like, what on earth, 200 PVA? Yeah, absolutely. But that's just the genuine care, the skill of the adjustment, training, like all of these things are so hyper relevant as it pertains to marketing. because it just makes your marketing go a lot further. The more
Yeah.
you can make from a patient, the more you can afford to pay for said patient. Simple as that.
Even like the sales side of things too, in healthcare and especially chiropractic, it can always be a taboo word. It's like it's still business. Sales is still a very active term. It's something you got to do every day. That doesn't mean the problem is people tag the negative side of the term sales to it. And it's like, well, there's also a positive side to the term sales. You know what I mean? Sales can be very positive. In fact, it's supposed to be a very positive thing because that's just the simple exchange of providing value, providing a
Yep.
need. And that's what you're here to do, which means your sole goal should be to sell. Just because you're selling doesn't mean you're doing something scammy. Like, don't do the scammy thing. Do the legit thing. Care for people. Pay attention to people. Actually want to help them, and then present to them how you're supposed to help them. And then know your numbers. Be on top of it. Like, if you're not going to be paying attention to these other things, and you're just hoping to pay some marketing company to send you new patients, and you're going to be fine. You're not. Like Trev touched on it earlier. If your sales is dialed, if your treatment's dialed, your retention's dialed, and you understand these numbers, it is very difficult at that point to not succeed when you do tag marketing on, because you know the back end's working. It's like plugging holes in a boat.
I find as it relates to the sales side of things, kind of going back to like you're mentioning, Dylan, like getting content that's kind of like with someone that's not all the way in. It's like, you just got to go all in, right? Like you got to do what you're made to do, what you're here to do, like is serve that community. And when you go all in, everyone notices. We can all tell someone that's only half invested in what they're doing. So if there's a chiropractor that's listening, that's ready to go all in, and that has the systems dialed, and it's like, okay, now's the time to add fuel to the fire. How do they get in contact with you guys? What does that process look like to start the conversation?
Yeah, I mean, the simplest thing is check out our website. Nice and old school, just like we do with you guys. We get your website set up in your SEO. Our website is set up to show you everything you need to know about us, show you testimonials, show you our process. And then it's got a very, very nice, simple apply button in the top right corner. You don't need to be scared of that button. All it does is take you to a calendar. And that calendar will book a time on this friendly guy, Trevor's here calendar. And yeah, you have a call. So similar to our web and SEO audits, you end up basically just having a one-on-one call with us. We take a look at everything you're doing, everything you're not doing. We take a look at your clinic, where you're located, what the back end looks like. Everything we've talked about on this call, we'll in some form or fashion discuss it, see if you're a good fit. And yeah, if we determine you're a good fit, we'll make you an offer to work with us. And it's really, really as simple as that.
All right, Dylan and Trevor. Well, we appreciate the expertise that you brought to this conversation today. I think it's been a valuable conversation that we're sharing with our audience. Thank you for being here. We'll get this out, and we'll leave all the links in our show notes to your website and social media and all that good stuff as well. So thank you very much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having us, guys. It was a good time, and maybe we'll do it again. And it's been great getting to know you guys over the past year, meeting you guys at the conferences and stuff like that. You guys are clearly, even for our community, especially obviously the Canadian community, you guys are fitting in great, for lack of a better term, even amongst the other vendors, amongst the doctors, even the ones that we work with together on both sides. Yeah, it's you got the personality fit, right? That's always important. If you can relate with people, I think you guys are a great fit for this community, and hopefully we can send some of our clients your way as well, because we're ideally making them all this money and helping them to grow their clinics. You gotta manage your treatments and your retention. Then you got to manage your money, helping make sure that it doesn't go to waste and that they grow their legacy for their family and beyond.
All right, thanks, guys. We will wrap it there. Appreciate the time, and for everyone listening, thank you for being here, and we'll see you again next week. All opinions expressed on the Chiro Money Show are for educational, informational, and entertainment purposes only. Nothing on this podcast should be considered financial, legal, accounting, or tax advice. Always consult your own team of licensed professionals before making decisions about your finances.